Listen at 'em. Listen at 'em.
Welcome back to the Dimer Sports Betting Podcast. I'm Greg, joined as always by Dave. Super Bowl has wrapped. We gave you our Super Bowl reaction show on Tuesday, and now we're going to give you our first post-football era NBA, NHL, college hoops jam-packed episode, a futuristic episode, you could say today. Dave, how are you?
Good, man. I should have put on some futuristic looking glasses or like one of the like a silver leather jacket or something to fit the theme of this one. But it's a new era for us on the podcast. No NFL. I'm sure once we get a little bit deeper into the offseason, we'll talk about some, team look aheads. We'll talk about what's going on in camp, draft time. We'll talk about stuff. But for now, the NFL is in the books, and we are looking at daily stuff, weekly stuff with golf and whatnot. We got some pretty great slates, at least not this weekend anyway, with NHL and NBA on break, but we'll have a lot to go through still day to day. So bear with us as we kind of adjust the format of this show and kind of do it on the fly. But I think we still got some good stuff for y'all, and hopefully, you'll enjoy it as well. But should hammer home that if you are listening to this after the fact or immediately after we record, you should definitely get the notifications on for YouTube, because this stuff's going to be on a shorter turnaround, or on Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen, however you get notifications for new episodes, because some of this stuff will have shorter shelf life. So if you really want to get the most out of it, you'll want to be pretty much right in the know as soon as we're done.
And we do our best to put all of these clips, these segments, as much on social as we can. Dave does a great job leading up on that. So keep an eye out there. Follow Dimers wherever you go to get your sports betting information, and subscribe to Dimers Pro so you can get all this info yourself. But okay, we're back. Like I said, a futuristic episode. We're going to talk futures in both the NBA and the NHL, figure out where the value is with both of those leagues as we sort of turn this program toward covering those leagues night to night. More going forward. I'll also do a quick college hoops futures check-in for us. A big moment in that sport with 1 month until the NCAA tournament. You can really try and start to figure out which teams to keep an eye on. But first, let's start the show as we always do with some wins that you should have bet.
Should have bet that.
It was an unbelievable night for Victor Wembanyama, 40-12 in just 26 minutes. He keeps redefining what an NBA superstar looks like night to night.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. Good call for the Dimers model here, having him second overall in the projections. Congrats if you tailed on him. Back-to-back weeks, one of our top 3 overall players gets the crown. Unreal, 40-12 in 26 minutes. Just absolutely crazy stuff. The guy is an absolute alien. Kind of spot on with the analysis that we talked about. He hadn't quite had a big game against the Lakers yet, but if everything went right, and it did, and it's quite unbelievable what he can do in limited time on the court. Pretty nuts stuff. So no luck on Şengün, who was my personal favorite, but some of the prop angles we looked at hit as well. Kawhi got 8 boards. Brunson got 8 assists, if I remember correctly. Sadly, no Şengün love for me, but that's okay. We'll try again. Not next week because we'll be on All-Star break, but the week after, provided King of the Court returns. Hopefully it does. We'll have some more looks there. Also some good stuff on NBA social plays from the Dimers website. Some good stuff in first baskets last night. 2 of our top 5 hit. We got a little champ of the week shout out that I'll save for the end of the show that ties into that, as well as our top Dimers edge that I shared yesterday on social. Pistons money line, pretty sweat-free. They win by almost 20, only about a 1.5 point spread, but a really strong probability and good edge from the Dimers spot on that. Also a sweet spot place for the model with NBA money lines, about a 6% ROI on those plays at that edge range. So a couple of good things in a pretty quiet week, at least as far as big events are concerned. But we still put up some stuff for you, and hopefully you found some as well on the Dimers website.
Yeah, then if the Pistons are losing, they're just going to initiate a fist fight until they can get back to the game. So Detroit basketball, baby, at its finest.
Isaiah Stewart. It's crazy.
He's going to miss
getting away with it, and just he's back again and swinging crazy.
It's hilarious that seems to actually be the ethos of the franchise. Like all these different eras, it's like the good Pistons teams are going to beat your but at some point. So, hey, I don't know what to make of it as a Pistons fan, but I'm glad that the money line alert came through on my timeline last night. Shout out to Dimers for that. And good to see some success in general with NBA props, because I think that's what we're going to turn our attention to a lot going forward here in the next couple weeks on this show. Make sure you get the Dimers app so you can see all these values in real time, and promo code podcast for 50% off your first purchase of Dimers Pro. But for today, let's turn our attention right there next. We have a little 3-game slate, and we did pull out a few angles and edges courtesy of the Dimers model. So much like we did with NFL on this program in the past, let's go game by game through this slate and see if we can find some ways to attack it. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, well, like I said, or like you said, Greg, we'll just go game by game since it's a small one. We'll just go in order too. We'll start with Bucks Thunder. Just a couple notes from me. It is the last day before the All-Star break. Teams may do some funky things with minutes for guys, so just bet cautiously. Be aware of that. Not really something we can predict, unfortunately. And it's, been the story of the NBA once you hit about this time of year and later for several seasons now. So just something you have to consider and navigate as best as you can. And just so I don't have to keep saying it every time when we go over these games, if I refer to a team's rankings against a stat like points, rebounds, assists, etc., it'll be over their last 15 games, just for a more isolated sample size, something more recent to look at. But that way I'm not saying last 15 games enough to make a drinking game out of it in this show. So let's start. I'll just pull up the whole predictions anyway. Might as well. I think that makes the most sense. And we'll go with Bucks Thunder first and just dive in here. If it wants to cooperate, it's not clicking for me. Maybe just a little browser refresh. All right. Well, anyway, I'll talk about the game until this shows up. But no real big edges in this game. Last I checked, we'll double check this when this finally refreshes and loads for me here. Here we go. Little value on Bucks plus 13.5. Last I saw, we had that at 55%, 3.8% edge, minus 105. That's actually a little better. And so is the line. It's plus 14. Looks like you can get. This was 50. This is plus 13.5 and a 2.7% edge. So you're getting a little better here now. Milwaukee is one of the worst teams against the spread this season, for what it's worth. Thunder are a little better, but they are under 500 covering the spread. 20-point Thunder win the last time out these guys face each other. Although you had both Giannis and SGA in that game, both are out tonight. It would suck if you bought tickets for this game a few weeks ago anticipating you might see something good, because you are not going to. Thunder are also in their worst little stretch of the season. Might be a game they're just trying to get out of healthy and get into the break. So I don't know if you'll see even a full complement of minutes from guys like Chet and Jalen Williams and those guys tonight. Maybe see some more Jared McCain after they just got him for the trade deadline. He had a nice little stretch last night, just rubbing it in for Philly. I don't hate the spread, given those reasons, but it's just not really one that's on my card. I don't play many NBA spreads as it is. But the NBA gets silly all the time, so I'd probably rather just bet the underdog, honestly, in kind of an unpredictable game and a weird scenario going into the break. We've got that just about fair. 15. We got a 1% edge, actually. Plus 600, 15%. Not the worst little sprinkle here headed into the break with best player for each team out and kind of throwing things in limbo.
Yeah. I mean, leading into the break, there's so much uncertainty with just how our team's going to approach this. Obviously, rest your superstars is the MO pretty much across the board, across the league. We're going to see that in this game. I feel like with spreads with NBA, I very rarely bet them pregame, kind of like you said. But big numbers always get my attention, especially big numbers in this sort of pickup game environment where it's all the bench guys who everybody's going to play hard and, try to make a sort of a statement opportunity and opportunities you don't normally get with normal rotations. So it's a pretty big number. Some of the highest projected leaders in this game, AJ Green and Ryan Rollins, are guys that have put up big numbers when given opportunities like this in the past. Green's on a pretty big streak right now. So I don't hate that at all. I think I'd rather be on the big number plus the point side here as opposed to on the other side. What about props specifically? I know Green has been on a heater lately.
Yeah, nothing really in the way of actual prop value here. You could see just a couple props on steals. Not terrible probabilities. They are plus money, so the edges are strong. 45% for Wiggins, 2+. Dort under half a steal, 42.9%. But that's, not really my kind of thing. So if you look at the projections, matchup wise, I think there's a couple things to look at here. The Thunder have actually been, make sure you get the right game here, pretty vulnerable to threes lately, ranked 22nd overall defending, 26th in attempts. Positionally, there's nothing really notable against them for forwards or centers. Not totally surprising, but for guards, that gets particularly worse. They rank 30th in both of those categories. Ryan Rollins, AJ Green, you just mentioned, Greg, both projected leaders here, 3.2 for each. Rollins was listed game time decision last I checked. I believe he did not play last night. So if I had to pick one, ahead of lineups, I'd lean AJ Green because he's not listed with any injury designations. Sometimes the battle with NBA is, do you want to bet it early while the value is there? Or do you want to wait closer to game time, know the lineups, and possibly lose a little edge on a guy, or even see his line move completely? I don't think that would happen in this scenario, but I've seen that where I've waited for, there was a Brunson line assists a few weeks, maybe last week even. He was like 5.5 assists, looked pretty good for a ladder. And by the time I went to get it, 7+ was minus odds. So kind of a dance you have to deal with. But Rollins has 4. He's got 3 in 3+ threes in 4 of his last 5 games. Green has 4+ in 4 of his last 5. Green's plus 147 for 4+. I think he's worth a little look for a ladder up to 6, which he's hit 4 times this season. He's never hit 7, so you could probably feel pretty comfortable about capping the ladder at 6 and not going beyond that. Other than that, on the flip side, the Bucks are actually the worst defense versus threes overall. A little bit of a weakness to forwards, but the Thunder don't really have a high volume 3-point shooting guy at that spot. So I might just look for our top projected guy in this, which is Isaiah Joe. He's actually gone down a bit. He was at 3.7 earlier, 3.3 now. I don't even see lines for him before. So not a ton of, I'm looking to attack prop wise in this game. If it would be Rollins or Green for threes, with a lean towards Green because he has no injury designation. But if they're both active, probably couldn't go wrong betting maybe both for 4+, 5+.
Yeah.
If you play both, maybe just leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm on Green. That's the play for me here. I think especially, I think you like it more, obviously, if Rollins is out, just because he probably gets a couple extras up, but I think he has a really good chance of it regardless. Okay, let's turn to the second game on the card, Blazers and Jazz. Such a weird season for the Jazz. Blatant tanking that the league has almost had to publicly speak on. To that point, we now get the news that Jaren Jackson is going to miss the rest of the season, the newly acquired star for the Jazz. So I look, somehow, some way, this team is awesome against the spread. I think it's not a surprise that our model reflects that and shows value on the Jazz yet again tonight to cover the 8-point pregame spread. But I don't know about you. There's just an icky taste in my mouth with all things with this team.
Yeah, it's probably because the spreads are probably huge, right? They're probably massive spreads that they end up covering and still losing horribly, even while tanking. They've managed to win games in this weird tanking stretch, which is kind of bizarre. Like Yusuf Nurkic turned into Jokic for like a 3-game stretch, helped them win 1 game, messed with the tank, and they said that's it. And they slashed his minutes, put him on the bench for the subsequent fourth quarters. I can't bet on a team that is tanking. I mean, you have a good against the spread record here. There's value. If you are a pure value bettor, then, this might be a line for you. But I just can't get behind betting on a team that is actively trying to lose games. You have no idea what's going to happen in those. But I will bet against them. They've been an absolutely great matchup for basically any position, trying to ladder up tons of different categories. I've had success with that this season. We've called out a few on this show, regularly seeing a guy in our top projected king of the court rankings when they play the Jazz. So let's just look at a couple props in here. Oh, Denny's back in here with his points line, which is pretty nice. I think this went up a point. It's probably why we're getting some value on him here, because it's plus money now instead of what it was at 22.5. Also on his assists, which is the angle that I had prepped for this, which I'll definitely talk about, but a pretty solid edge here on Denny to clear his line of 5.5, projected for, 6.9, 58% probability. That's gone up a bit. Plus money here, pretty good floor play if you want to do a ladder or just as a solid straight. Jazz ranked 29th in assists and 30th in points overall, 28th and 25th versus forward. So it looks like a pretty solid play if he's going to play his full minutes. He's over 6 in 6 of his last 12. All those games in 2026 calendar year. Jazz also ranked 20th against rebounds to forward. So I don't hate a sprinkle on even a triple double for Denny. Maybe just his assist ladder, but there's a big discrepancy on the books when I looked at that last. It was plus 1580 on DraftKings, plus 2700 on FanDuel. He does have 3 this year, flirted with one many times. Sure, there are other ways to bet this game by attacking the Jazz prop-wise. They're defensively bad at pretty much everything. Take a quick look at the projections. Our 3-point, always a good spot to look at against them. Tumani Kamara is our top projected 3-point shooter in this game. And for the Blazers, 2.4, though, not very much, but, it is our top mark. He spiked for 8 threes the other night. He's their top guy by volume, so could be an interesting angle to look at as well. But, it's definitely a bit of a messy game, I think. Not nearly anything as appealing as Green on the Bucks for me, but I did play a sprinkle on Denny's triple-double because of that huge odds discrepancy, almost twice as good at one book compared to the other. On a long shot like that, that's worth a play for me.
Yeah, the only fear when you play a team that is so blatantly tanking like the Jazz is if you're betting prop angles from the opponent that they might be up so much they rest the entire fourth quarter. And I mean, that happened the last time that Denny played Utah. This was at the beginning of the beginning of January, and it was a 20-point win for the Blazers. And Denny finishes with 33, 9, and 8 in 29 minutes. I mean, that's his lowest total basically of a 4-week stretch. He was playing 39 to 40 minutes most nights. It clearly, he doesn't even need to play his normal minute share in order to approach some crazy numbers, but it's kind of the one big bit of hesitation that keeps you guessing with something like that. I think all of the angles that you brought there from a props perspective speak for themselves, though. The team is trying to lose. Defensively, they're a total mess. Denny, I feel like I probably would go assists. I think you spoke to it already, but 56% probability according to the model that we can potentially go over that line of 5.5. Again, almost a triple-double last time he played this team in very limited minutes. Triple doubles are worth a shout as well, but I would just sprinkle that. It's a good shout by you. Lastly, tonight we have the Lakers and the Mavs. This would be the Luka Anthony Davis rematch, although a lot has changed for these two since that trade. So what do you see here?
That's just so funny to me. Just over a year ago, we had that trade, and tonight neither one of them are playing in this game for different reasons, but that's kind of the sad comical poetry that is the NBA a bit. You can't really make it up, but you can here because the NBA is just oftentimes an unserious league. But you can get an edge here on the Mavs to cover. It's actually shortened up a little bit. Only 0.6%, 53% probability at +7, projecting a 6-point victory for the Lakers. Better play is on the under of 235.5, where we have that at 53.6%. 2.4% edge, almost even money at -105. Sweet spot as well. NBA over-under bets in this edge range have returned 21.4% profit over 32 similar bets. So not a huge sample size at this edge range for totals, but a pretty solid 21.4% ROI so far this season there. So again, not a team I love to get behind, but pretty solid, at least as far as the value is concerned. But again, Dallas, one of the poorer teams against the spread. Props-wise, you got a little first basket value here, which we didn't have in the other games. Kind of cool. Both of them on the Mavs. You got Max Christie and Najee Marshall, each, 11.2% for Christie, 14.4% for Marshall. 5 first buckets through 39 starts for Christie, 2 and 28 for Marshall. So not actually terrible hit rate there for Max Christie, plus 1,100. That's definitely a better hit rate than those odds imply. Anyway, Marshall is the second highest overall of the night, which you can see, by the way, now first baskets are in our NBA projections. You can just scroll over all the way to the right, sort by first basket. Oh, he's actually the highest of the night now. He was just behind Lowry Markkanen, who has now dropped to 13.9%. So, yeah, you get an edge on our top projected guy to score the first basket tonight. Pretty solid spot. And like I said earlier, 2 of the favorites scored last night from our top 5. So that's where the model was more dialed in, at least as far as last night's concerned. But yeah, I might have to sprinkle on Marshall at least.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Marshall's one of those guys, like there's so many guys in this unserious NBA league now that like name brand alone, I can barely even believe they're in the league. And then you look at some of these games where the stars are out and he's just putting up insane numbers. Like there's so much talent in that league, even if you're not the all-star level first option types. And the Mavs are a weird team. Obviously, they've gone very quickly from like we're contending with Anthony Davis to we're blowing this up and building around Cooper Flag. I still can't really get a read on exactly what they want to be right now. But without Coop in this game, it makes it even more of an interesting spot for me. Possibly a look into like vintage LeBron. Maybe. I don't know. With all the stars out, could he just run it back one time before this all-star break?
Maybe. I mean, it's a good time for him too, right? I mean, we know he loves the attention. It's a small slate. He's in the late game. It's going into the all-star break. Kind of a bit made out of what he's not going to be eligible for first team All-NBA or whatever anymore, or at least this year because of how many games he's missed. But I don't know. I could see it happening. The Mavs rank like pretty low in the primary categories, 23rd in points, 24th in rebounds, 27th in assists overall. They're actually pretty good versus guards, but so that poor defense is actually weighted against forwards. And, obviously that's LeBron right there. 3 straight double doubles for him with assists. He's flirted with triple double a bunch of times lately. What you got him projected for? 23.3, 6.4, and 8.4. Not that far off. I will say the books definitely are aware of the good matchup. He hasn't had a triple double yet this season, but he's around plus 800 to plus 950, depending where you look. That's obviously not chump odds or anything, but it's not plus 2,500. For example, like Denny Avdija, who's had 3 and is playing a terrible team, where that could bleed the stats to him. So it's not a quiet, value spot or anything, but it certainly could see it happening. I mean, why not? That or an Austin Reeves nuclear game randomly. He hasn't had one of those since he returned. Don't remember if he went off significantly before his injury, but we've seen him have those kind of crazy games. So who knows? It's going to be a weird night, honestly, before the break. But if there's anything I'm looking at, it's probably just LeBron to hit some of these marks, maybe go a little bit over, maybe pick up a double, 23 and 8 in our projections. It's like, not that far off.
Yeah, I like LeBron assists, if anything, with Luke out. I think he just takes on the full-time facilitator role. I think that's obvious. 3 straight games with 10 assists. So that's where I would look if I'm looking Bron. It's just hard. Like old LeBron, it's like automatic bet triple-double every night, and you'll probably get an ROI on it. New LeBron, there's so many questions on like, is he resting? Is he not? Like, how does the game script go? It is right before All-Star weekend, and Lord knows where his head is at with that. Maybe his potential final All-Star appearance. You never know. So for me, the one thing you can guarantee in this game, he's going to basically be running point for the Lakers, as he does every game that Luka's out. And that's yielded good results lately. 3 straight games with 10 assists. So, all right, there we go. Dave, thank you very much. What's your favorite personal play tonight? If you had to pick one that we talked about, what's on your card?
It's the green 3s for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. I like that shout. I think I'm going Denny. I'm going back to that matchup and maybe looking at Denny assists. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Maybe I'll have to play a little mini ladder of both.
Yeah. Do that. Yeah. Why not? A little get our mojo going as we start to go more and more into NBA season. That's a good way to do it. All right. I teased the futuristic nature of this episode. We're going to do 3 consecutive futures check-ins next. We'll start in the league we have already started in, the NBA. Do you want to just pull this up on site and sort of go through this together?
Yeah, might as well. Let me find the futures real quick and bring these up. Here we go. Yeah, so obviously you got the Thunder favored, big surprise. Yeah, almost fair odds though, roughly 40.6% plus 130, not very far off. 150 would be fair at 40%, so that's pretty much spot on. And then you have the Cavs and the Knicks are about fair at their spots here, 6.5%, 6.1%, both at plus 1,400. Then the Celtics, 5.9% plus 1,600. They're up from about 1.8% preseason and down from plus 5,000. We talked about them before the season. We talked about them in a quick little check-in a week or so ago. So little sleeping juggernaut, maybe the Celtics here. I'm glad we got a piece of them early on at those big odds. Hopefully they'll at least be in the running come late. Value-wise, the Nuggets, that's why I skipped over them, by the way, plus 600 at 16%. They'd be fair at plus 525, so a little bit of value here. They stayed afloat without issues, really, while Jokic missed a month. Lately, some ups and downs, lost 5 of their last 10. Not overly concerning for a team this good with this type of pedigree, a team that's won a championship recently, but they were all to contenders, the Cavs, the Knicks, the Pistons twice, the Thunder. So, this team, I imagine, will be competitive in any 7-game series, but felt a little notable to see them heading into the break, struggling against teams that, they would face in the playoffs or in the finals potentially.
Yeah, I can see that. Great call by you on the Celtics way back when we just did a quick check-in, because that
the model, man.
It was all the model, but it was also you identifying it. Sometimes you got to know how to use the weapon, Dave, and you use
That's
the
true.
weapon to its fullest.
That's true.
With the Thunder, how do you personally feel at this? I mean, they're such a sizable favorite for good reason, or even just with probabilities from the model, like more than double the second most likely champion here, but at the same time, not exactly a value bet at plus 130 at 41%. Like, how do you personally feel on it? Would you play them at plus money now or no?
I don't like it. I feel like this is a Dodgers situation where I was staring at them all season, plus 230, plus 250, and I'm like, it's disgusting. I can't do that. Anything can happen. Shohei gets hurt. Freddie Freeman gets hurt. They just have a bad series. We've seen good teams lose, especially in baseball all the time. And then they go on and they win. And it was basically no issues for him. And you're like, well, I wish I did get a piece of that, especially if you're investing in other teams. It's not always the worst to know, like, hey, if the favorite wins, I'll break even on my other futures bets that I've invested in. It does suck to have really good value watching it miss by the favorite, the Scotty Scheffler winning when you've got a guy who finishes in second type stuff, and can't really bet the runner up. So, I don't like it at all. I wouldn't fault anyone for betting it. It's plus money on a team that is very excellent. No longer looks unbeatable like they did earlier in the season. Slipped quite a bit over the last month or so.
Yeah.
But, that doesn't really mean much getting into the finals. I mean, I'll point it out later, but you're looking at every team that can actually win the finals right here on the screen, and it's not even about a third of the league. So, yeah, no concrete take from me, unfortunately. I don't like it, but I get it.
Yeah, it's one of those ones, like, with their current form, maybe you wait and hope they have more hiccups in, I don't know, into March and beyond, and maybe this gets closer to 2-1. They're so clearly the best team here. I mean, I can talk myself into a couple threats in the West to possibly chase them down. I think the East is just a mess right now. It honestly reminds me of the AFC in the NFL landscape that we came through. It's like somebody's got to make the finals. Who will it be? But I don't know. I will point this out, and this is on site with Dimers as well. We also have futures percentages and edges for winning the conference instead of just winning the overall championship. And, a 50.5% probability that the Thunder win the West at minus 125 odds. I'd have to do the mental math on this, but that feels closer to fair at first glance than, I don't know, plus 130 at a 40%. Maybe I'm doing the math wrong on that though, Dave.
It should be a shade shorter than even money. So it's probably like minus 102. minus 103 for fair here. So, but look at that. I mean, they had 10% less to win it all than they are to win the West. Like, most of these teams, it's roughly double or so, I guess, to win the conference compared to the championship. The Nuggets are about 6% less, so maybe not quite there, but it's huge. They are really just a juggernaut, tier above everybody else. But it's hard to go back to back. Wouldn't surprise me if somebody else wins. Doesn't surprise me. That's why our value is really in the West, because they're eating such a big chunk of that with the Nuggets. Then down here with the Timberwolves, 3% at plus 3,500. Little edge here, fair would be plus 3,200. But they played a fairly easy schedule by comparison. Bit of a 5-game losing streak recently. Losses to less than impressive teams as well, like the Jazz, Bulls, and Pelicans. I'm just not really sure that's a team that could win a 7-game series against the best of the West, but it's a price worth looking at, according to the edge anyway. I'll say our model definitely has a sort of a soft spot for the Timberwolves. It's not the first time, maybe the past couple years I've seen a little bit of an edge on them, though they got close. What was it, the year they lost to the Mavs in the Western Conference Finals, I think. Was that the Nuggets maybe? But they've gotten close. They're talented. They'll be there in the playoffs. But I don't know if they're winning a 7-game series against the Nuggets, the Thunder, the Spurs.
Yeah. The Timberwolves are maybe my favorite team to root for to get over the hump. I've been doing it for 2 years, and look, they haven't. So it's probably going to bite me again. But even just seeing a small edge there is enough for me to consider getting a futures ticket in hand with Minnesota. I just love Anthony Edwards. And I think in postseason time, the same way I felt about quarterbacks in the NFL playoffs, I like betting the guy I trust the most in a big game setting. And as sort of the LeBron era comes to a close, I think Anthony Edwards has a chance to be that guy in the backcourt in the league. So, all right, there's a good landscape there. I guess the conclusion here from NBA right now would be, if you feel strongly about it, Nuggets and Timberwolves may be worth a shot at their current odds. Other than that, let's hold until future notice. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. If you're looking for value, they're the ones with it. Fair odds about Cavs, Knicks, Celtics, and pretty much everyone in the East is around fair. We're a little short on the Pistons, so you can't really go wrong if you just have a favorite. All pretty similar probabilities by the model as well. So yeah, Nuggets, Timberwolves. Otherwise, just hold off from a value perspective.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's go next to the NHL. Like I said, we're going to do a ton of futures in the rest of this show. Next up, we start with hockey. The Avalanche and the Lightning way out in front in terms of probability to win the Stanley Cup. However, quite an odds discrepancy there. You can get the Lightning over twice the odds that you would get with Colorado. And our model shows a very similar chance of that being the ultimate champion.
Yeah. Colorado feels like they've been here for months at this point. They're an absolute juggernaut. Best offense, great defense. They don't allow a lot of goals. They score at will, seemingly. Hit a bit of a tough stretch. Half of their total losses this season have come since the start of January. And they still have a 5-point lead in the West. So they're just rolling, even though they've hit some rough patches. They're going to hit another one after the Olympics. They play like 5 games in 7 days, which is exhausting. But again, kind of like we said, about the Nuggets with the NBA, it doesn't really matter too much in the long term. If you're betting them short term, I'd be cautious. But as far as winning a Stanley Cup, playing 5 games in 7 days after the Olympics isn't really going to affect them that much. You just might see some more losses than they would have otherwise. First or second round exits every year since their win back in 2022. Obviously, they'd like to correct that. They lost in embarrassing fashion last year with the guy that they traded midseason, Mikko Rantanen, scoring a hat trick in the 3rd period against them to eliminate them. I believe that was the elimination game. I should know. I was in Denver at that time. But pretty bad. They definitely would like to get that behind them and at least get into the 3rd round. They're our model's favorite, like you said, just by a little here, not even a full percent, but no value at plus 240. Like I said, it feels like they've been there for months now. if you're looking for value, you don't have to go too far. You get the Lightning, 21.8% cup probability. That's fair, around plus 360. They're plus 500 at their best price. So pretty solid play right there. Big rise from 6% preseason probability by the model, more than triple, almost 4 times as much here. So, getting a good price on a team that is already shortened is not always easy, and you have it here. Red hot, 13-1-1 since January 1st, best record in the NHL, 37-14-4 overall. They lead the Atlantic Division at the break. Andre Vasilevsky's elite again, goaltending, 27 wins, 920 save percentage, 2.11 goals against average. He's not in the Olympics due to the Russia ban, so he'll be even more rested, honestly, when everybody else comes out of it. Good for them long term. 3 straight first-round exits, probably a bit of a concern if you're, trying to back the Lightning. Bit of a monkey on the back for them as well. They won back-to-back cups less than a decade ago, and now they are having trouble getting out of that first round. But there's plenty of guys on this roster who were there, including coach. John Cooper's as good as any, on the bench. The roster is stacked. Nikita Kucherov's got like the 3rd most points in the league. 2 other top 20 goal scorers in Brandon Hagel, Cenk Gunsel, and Braden Point will return at some point. So, they're stacked. They don't have to worry about the Avs till they get to the finals. So they're appropriately the final or the favorite in the East. And doesn't look like you could really go wrong with them from a value perspective. Other 2 edges, a couple more edges, but primary one here, Utah Mammoth. They're actually our 5th highest probability, 4.5%. That'd be fair at like plus 2120. So a huge edge at plus 4,500. One of the largest discrepancies available. Ranked, like I said, 5th most likely champion here, just ahead of Dallas and Minnesota, who probably look a bit more complete, a bit more geared up for a cup run, but not quite with the value. They are the top wild card in the West. The Mammoth feels a little out of place. They're the only team in the wild card with a positive goal differential. The other teams are just seemingly a tier below. Like the Mammoth are just kind of in this limbo here. Seem far stronger than the other playoff teams that are, or the fringe playoff teams. They've got the winningest goalie in the West, top 5 overall defense, solid scoring offense. They're looking to make some trades here. Elias Pettersson, Nazem Kadri have come up in conversations. That would make their offensive ceiling even higher. And like I said, huge discrepancy here. Usually where you're going to find the best value, at least as far as championship futures, is when it's this big, because it's going to shorten up so much come the playoffs if they make it and they're in that last crop of teams. TBD if they're actually built for a cup run, but great value here. Other team, perfect team to segue into, but not sure if they're built for a cup run, at the Buffalo Sabres. Trying to break a 14-year playoff drought here. One of the hottest teams in the NHL. Only lost 7 games since early December after a pretty rough start to the season. Holding the top Eastern wildcard spot. 5-point cushion there. So they're on pace to make the playoffs finally. 3.3% probability to win at plus 4,000 here. Pretty big edge. They'd be plus 2930. Fair. Kind of priced here like a bubble team, but they're looking more like nothing is a lock at this point, certainly, but it does look like they're going to make the playoffs. This form holds again. You got to imagine it shortens up, similar to how the Mammoth should shorten. Maybe 20-1, 30-1. Team hasn't been to the finals since '99. Never won a cup. Maybe they finally do it. Pretty talented young leader in Tage Thompson, playing in the Olympics today. So, good value there as well. And then just one more here. Penguins, 2.5% at plus 5,500. They looked like they were maybe in free fall in December, bounced back pretty well. Course corrected a bit heading into the break. 2nd place in the Metro. They're up from something like 100-1 preseason. Still a long shot though. 50-55-1. They upgraded their goaltending and they traded for Stuart Skinner, so they've improved. And they got some veterans looking for the first cup. Erik Karlsson. You got guys like Sidney Crosby and Malkin looking to add another one to the trophy case. So they could surprise us down the stretch, much as they already had this season as a team that wasn't even expected to make the playoffs, let alone be in second place. So 4 values there, kind of at all not very different price points. You get a short one, and then 3 what I would just consider objectively long shots, but with good value. So, yeah, if you're looking at some NHL Stanley Cup value, the Lightning, the Mammoth, the Sabres, and the Penguins would be where it's at. Other than that, you're looking at real deep cut here, like the Blue Jackets, so.
Love it. All right. Thank you for that. Pretty great value up top on the Lightning to me. I mean, seeing nearly an identical probability at twice the odds that you can get with the highest favorite. That's rare to see from a futures perspective. I like to shout. All right, let's close our futures loop today with a college basketball futures look. This is going to replace our college corner. It's a pretty quiet Thursday night slate and big weekend games up on the Dimers Pro site, obviously, if you log in. Those games are not populating just yet. So I would encourage everybody, get Dimers Pro, use promo code podcast, get 50% off. Tune back in Thursday night, Friday. Usually those games for the weekend start to populate a little bit. But rather than give out some smaller games for Thursday night, I thought it'd be fun to just scroll through the same way we just did for NBA and NHL and take a look at college hoops. The one thing I will preface this with from a college perspective, we don't show much value at all at current odds, really from top to bottom here. The conclusions, more so for me from a futures betting perspective right now, is taking a sense of the various tiers of contenders in this sport to potentially win a national championship. If you've been paying attention to the sport this year, it's really felt like there are 2 teams vying for that coveted number 1 spot. Arizona has held it all season long up until this week when they went to Allen Fieldhouse and finally lost to Kansas, suffering their first loss of the year. We'll see if Michigan overtakes them in the AP poll, but our model does reflect that Arizona and Michigan are sort of alone at the top. They're the only 2 teams with a greater than 10% probability to win the championship. They have identical odds in terms of best odds. You can get them at right now at 5-1. It is worth noting Dimers likes Arizona as a higher likelihood champion than Michigan at the same odds, which breaks my heart. But I think they certainly have been the more consistent team through this point of the season, so I can see it now.
I was gonna say, surely you concur with that, Greg, and would absolutely put Arizona above Michigan, even if by a mere 1.2%.
Listen, the interesting thing with the way college works, it's not, a 1-game championship. It is a national championship, but you got to get there. You got to win 6 games in a single elimination tournament. That's more than you see in the NFL playoffs, obviously, and it's different than a 7-game series in the NBA. So, with Michigan, they're really volatile. Their ceiling is as high as anybody's. I think it's higher than Arizona, but their floor rears its ugly head all the time. They'll play 20 terrible minutes like they just did at Northwestern. They were down 16 points with 14 minutes left. Then they scored on 21 consecutive possessions in the final 10 minutes and showed their ceiling. So it's your guess as good as mine what version of Michigan shows up in the NCAA tournament. I think Arizona is the more reliable bet. And if I was picking between the 2, I think they are the team to bet on to win the national championship. But my advice right now would be don't touch either of those. I think we're likely to see more fluctuations. Both teams have a really, really difficult stretch run of their schedule in the final month here. Arizona plays 4 of the top 5 teams in the Big 12 that they haven't played yet. And Michigan has to go at Purdue, at Illinois, the 2 next likely champions out of the Big Ten. So I think you could see multiple losses from both, which could get both teams closer to maybe 7-8-1 by the time we get to Selection Sunday. And at that point, it might be a more palatable price. It's also just worth noting, compare this to the NHL, compare this to maybe even the NBA. Obviously, the NBA had the Thunder way out in front. But, it sort of feels like Arizona and Michigan are way out in front. There's not a huge drop off from them in tier 1 to tier 2. And what I would call tier 2 here is Duke and Houston. Duke pulling in a 9% probability to win the championship. Houston pulling in an 8% probability to win the championship. Really almost doubled the odds of a Michigan or an Arizona for Houston at 9.5-1. Duke at 7-1, and that's unlikely to change given that they're running through the ACC. They just lost to North Carolina, but that's really their only problematic game for the rest of the season. So I think it's fair to say there's tier 1, Michigan and Arizona, tier 2, Duke and Houston. Then you have this third tier of teams that have looked like they belong with a Duke, with a Houston, but also maybe have picked up a couple more losses along the way than you would like to see. It really does extend from Florida down to, I would cap it at Purdue. Teams that I think can win the national championship, and our model gives at least a 3% likelihood of doing so. You can make arguments for any of this group. Florida, the defending champion, one of the best front courts in the entire country. Illinois is not healthy right now, and honestly, that's putting some value on them because they've lost back-to-back games, missing 2 starters, and their odds are continuing to drop. I believe they were 9-1 earlier this week. I don't hate holding an Illinois ticket right now. That's probably the only team I would personally put a wager on at current odds, but it is worth noting our model still doesn't show any value at that at 4.5% probability to win it all. Kansas has the Darren Peterson situation ongoing. It seems like he can't make it through a full game, but they're winning games without him. And if the projected number 1 pick ever just gets to full go, it's easy to see them as one of the more valuable bets on the board. And then you've got teams like UConn, Iowa State, and Purdue that are very great offenses that are going to at least be in that second weekend come NCAA tournament time. So, from my perspective, I would cap it there in terms of teams that can win the national championship. You're really looking at a group of 10, that tier 1 of Michigan and Arizona, tier 2 of Duke and Houston, and tier 3 being the 6 teams we just went through. I don't think and what our model shows and projections, it doesn't feel like there's a huge gap between tier 1 and tier 3. I mean, there is no 40% probable outcome here. So you're really just trying to buy low and strike at the right time. Unfortunately for us college hoops fans right now, I don't think now is the right time for any of these teams. Check back in a couple weeks as we get closer to the end of the conference season, and let's see how these odds fluctuate for all of these teams.
Well said, Greg. I have mixed feelings. I would like to see maybe a little more model love for my Huskies, but it doesn't pain me either because I can't bet on them without physically leaving my home state. Thus, it makes it difficult to capitalize on the value, and now I won't have to worry about missing out on a solid edge, at least as of now, as I've had to do in several runs. The run a few years ago when they won, I was like, this is sick. This is awesome. Unexpected. I can't get a piece of it.
Right. That's one of the worst feelings in sports betting. But hey, since you mentioned UConn, let me shout out the team that just beat UConn quickly, St. John's. If you scroll down here, they are actually one of the teams closest to showing value. They have a 1.2% probability to win the title per the model, but at 70-1, look at that reflection compared to the other teams at a 1% chance, nearly double Gonzaga, Michigan State, and better odds than teams at that exact same probability like Vanderbilt and Alabama. I actually like there's ways to interpret the model's data and use it elsewhere. We just show probabilities to win the national championship. You can also find markets to make a Final Four. And St. John's to make a Final Four. Let me just double check this real quick. Last I checked, it was pretty tasty. I believe, here we go. I'm pulling it up on DraftKings right now, 16-1 for St. John's to make a Final Four, which is better odds than teams like Alabama and Louisville, who are less of a probability to win a championship per dimers than St. John's is. I actually am going to close the loop here, Dave, because I'm going to do a callback to our Tuesday episode this week. I have that $5 futures bet to play.
Oh, yes, you do. You're supposed to get back to me on this.
Dave, here's what we're going to do. We're going to tie all 3 of our futures that we just took a look at together here in what I am calling our Storm to a Championship parlay. We are going to take the Oklahoma City Thunder to win the NBA Finals, the Tampa Bay Lightning to win the Stanley Cup, and we're going to take the St. John's Red Storm to make a Final Four. All 3 of those bets either are the highest probability per the model right now or showing a significant edge. Thunder, Lightning, Storm. It pays out. I think this is nearly, what is this? A $5 bet would pay out $977. That's good enough for me.
All right, you got it. And I also thank you for this because that's going to make a great piece of content for me. I'll get to write an article and perhaps make a graphic out of this, and I'll get to milk this for some time, even though it came at the expense of me and my $5. But you better believe I'll be tailing it as well. So it's right up my alley. I love it. Good to know. And yes, I'll get right on that for you, Greg.
Love it. Thank you very much, my friend. All right. Hopefully you enjoyed this look at all of the various leagues, chances of championships. We'll periodically check back in on this as the weeks to come continue. Make sure you subscribe to the show. Please give us a like, show us some love. We enjoy doing this. It's a lot more fun the more interactive that it gets. And make sure you get your updates. Every time an episode comes out, we're usually talking about props for the games later that night. That will continue as we continue closer and closer to the NBA Finals. Next up, let's give some shout outs here. We've got another champ of the week.
The pro champ of the week.
Believe this is another repeat champ, Dave.
Yeah, they're repeating like crazy over here, Florida Panthers style. Although maybe not the best metaphor, as they're kind of stinking it up this year. But our guy Jay Solstice, not his first time here, not his first time in the Discord Hall of Fame either. Took those very NBA first basket probabilities I was discussing earlier, played a little round robin and parlay. He had a round robin with Jokic waiting. Jokic didn't come through, but his little two-legger does here with Kawhi Leonard and Kel'el Ware, two of our top fives. Cashing that at plus 4,100 to flip $10 into 420. This is a really tough market to crack. You'll always find our top probabilities and edges on site, just like our guy did here. My personal preference is generally, honestly, play the shorter odds guys that the model favors at the top. Guys who have, taken the first shot a lot. There's a lot of luck involved in this market with who wins the tip, who shoots first, if they make the shot. Over the course of the year, you'll still find those big names at the top of the leaderboards for who scores the most far more often than not. So that's my personal preference, and that's what worked here for our guy Jay Solstice. Like we showed you earlier, first basket projections every day on site in the projections hub, and we have a dedicated article that will display the top 15, the edges of the day as well.
Yeah, it's one of those markets I've personally never been able to crack. So anytime I see a ticket like this, I'm like, what dark spells do you know? Like, what language do you speak? No, it's just impressive.
We smacked it in the NBA the previous season. Some of the best wins of my life came from that. I think the biggest win we've ever seen in our Discord came from NBA first baskets, and they were long shot plays with edges from the model. Couldn't quite replicate it last season, and I can't find the luck really in the NBA. Like I said, I lean the shorter odds guys, and it seems I get them on the wrong nights. But at the end of the season, they're the ones with the most first baskets. So it's a difficult dance, first baskets. But obviously, lotto tickets happen and luck falls your way. It's not the worst market.
Well, it impresses the heck out of me. Congratulations to our champ of the week. Jay Solstice does it again. All right, Dave, that is it for us this week. Before we close the show, what else is going on at Dimers this week?
Pretty much the same stuff we talked about the other day. NHL, NBA are hitting break. So I feel like I need to PSA again. Don't sleep on the unsung sports on the website: golf, tennis, soccer, even college basketball. There's futures. There are daily predictions. There's always value there. And they are definitely overlooked. We're trying to hammer this home, especially over this stretch. And as we get into the summer, when it's basically just baseball and all of those sports until the NFL returns. Obviously, our PGA predictions will be updating after every round. Looks like we're off to a pretty solid start there. If you saw my little fist pump, it was because Tommy Fleetwood is heating up. He's T3 right now. We've got him for a ladder play. Rory McIlroy, who was in our guys to watch, T3 as well. Of course, Ben Griffin finally getting it together after we did not recommend him as a play this week, T8, but plenty of stuff to come. Russell Henley, not far behind there at -2. So hopefully we'll get some good results by the end of this round. Also couldn't find first round leader, which is going to really tick me off if Tommy Fleetwood finishes there today. But look for the live value if you missed the early stuff. And if you didn't, I'll be dropping some plays in the Discord as well, like I always do, round by round. Dimers.com, Dimers app, Dimers podcast, Dimers Discord. You know where to find it.
In the words of Tommy Fleetwood's young son, at the Masters. I'm trying my hardest to bring you the winners, folks. Let's go, Tommy, this weekend. Thank you, Dave. Always fun. We will be back next week. And enjoy the weekend, everybody. We'll see you then.